guys, welcome to Backwoods Brothers. Sorry we're starting a little late, but my name is Tony and
I'm Joel.
And we're here to talk to you about some current events. But actually, before we do that, so I started a new thing because usually before we start, there's always a runaround. It's like a rat race. And so I decided that I was going to give my broski a couple of things today. So not just one thing, but a couple of things I'm talking with. And so if you have a best friend, you should do this too. So Joel, I will give you more squirt, but actually this was out of your refrigerator. So there
Cheater.
you go.
Cheater.
But this one wasn't out of your refrigerator. You also, for some reason, like Tic Tacs, and I'm like, really, honestly, who does this? But he eats it like that.
It's
so
my oral fixation.
That's your oral fixation. Well, the funny thing is you're going to see some missing because it's actually from my office. And then the other thing is my own personal candy of choice is called Sweet Tarts. My wife thinks I'm a sweetheart. I have Sweet Tarts.
These were like left over from like, random people were there. Did you?
Which one? Sweet Tarts?
No, these ones.
No, those Tic Tacs are just mine.
Okay.
I decided to give them to you.
Okay.
Plus, with the COVID going on, you think I'm going to give you Rona? Get
Yes.
out of here.
Yes.
Okay. So, Joel, do you want to say anything before I actually talk to you about my first topic? Because I want to actually piggyback off of something he said last week.
20 minutes late, yes. That's because our computer has, for the second week in a row, decided to poop out on us right before we go live.
Yeah.
And so I got it working last week, but you saw the technical issues we had from that.
Right.
And so this week, it's still trying to recover for like the last hour. And we're using my normal laptop for that one. So it's definitely an interesting technical issues we're having here, one after the other. So I got to get them fixed.
Yeah, he had a special love for his computer, and he did not want to bring it to the studio today, but he did.
I do bring it here for this. But
Yeah.
I
Well,
want a special setup on it.
at least you come to work. Because remember last week you talked a little bit about the Democrats and how they left Texas to go to Washington, D.C., blah, 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 blah. Well, did you
Well, that was
ever...
descriptive.
Huh?
That was descriptive.
You want to actually go back through it? Because go ahead. Actually, why don't you set this up? Because I have something else for you on this one.
I was talking about how the Texas governor had said that when the Democrats that had fled Texas to avoid voting on something, they technically fled their duties, and it's their sworn duties because they swore in and they took an oath of the office. So there's actually laws that in the state of Texas that the House can actually issue basically warrants.
Yeah.
To have these any lawmaker that is fleeing from doing their job can actually bring them, basically can arrest them and bring them in and lock them inside of the House or the Senate until they do their job.
Now, these are people who get paid like lots of money to
Actually,
do this, right?
no. Sometimes these senators and things don't make as much money as you think they do.
They don't.
Like I believe believe like a standard, not like a senator you'd see in like the.
Give me a number.
Well, like a state senator, like one that only operates in the state Senate, but not in the federal Senate.
Right.
So I think they make like $9,000 a year.
9,000. So that's
Because it's only extra money basically on top of like a regular job that they'll have.
So it's extra money. Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
They go out like once a month to do this, and it's
So they actually do though get. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
they do get paid, but not a ton.
Okay.
So.
Well, apparently you didn't tell all the story because do you know that song "We Shall Overcome"?
No.
You've never heard that song before?
No.
Then you don't know anything about slavery, because that's what used to be sung as a Negro anthem.
So hold on.
We shall overcome.
Let me just
overcome
hold on.
someday.
You say just because I don't know one song that I don't know anything about slavery.
Well,
Isn't that pretty like major absolutionist?
That's true. That's true. And you know what? I take that back.
Okay.
I take that back. But I will tell you this. So the Democrats are actually claiming that by the governor taking the stance is equivalent to slavery.
No.
Oh, let me read it.
Well, they can say it.
Yeah, voter suppression. It says, I titled it, "We Shall Overcome." It says, lawmakers attacked Governor Greg Abbott and Texas, sorry about this, Republicans earlier in the week for allegedly trying to suppress the voters' minority, and they have documented their exploits on social media, gloating about fugitive status, boasting of their, sacrifice, and even singing "We Shall Overcome." And then it says Abbott, the Republicans, criticized the lawmakers who tried, who tried to flee for Washington D.C., saying that the lawyers will be arrested upon coming back home. So to Texas. Texas State Representative, I cannot pronounce her name, but it's Senfr Serafina, I believe, Thompson, one of the Democrats lawmakers that fled Austin for D.C. to derive the state legislator of the quorum. So they tried to just interrupt the quorum to vote an election integrity legislation. Delivered a fiery, and I say fiery, and I'm really having a hard time reading, speech in which she appeared to compare Texas officials threatening to arrest with an act of a slave escaping the plantation.
Well, here's the real truth: is they swore an oath, just like the military. So I bet you that they'd have a different approach. That if someone in the military decided to just run away and when maybe time of war or just abandon their duties, that's called being AWOL, absence without leave.
Right.
So because in the military you swear an oath. If a law enforcement officer actually runs away and when they're meant to do their duties, they can actually be called AWOL as well. That when you swear an oath, you're actually held to that oath to do your job. Yeah. And so these lawmakers, just like myself, swore an oath to the people and to uphold the Constitution and all that. Yeah. So that means that they need to be there to vote. Whether it's a win or lose, they need to be there to vote.
I don't see the correlation between what they're saying about a slave escaping the plantation as opposed to what...
Yeah,
if you're explaining it the way you are, I don't see the correlation there.
Exactly. That's no different than you disagreeing with me on some political statement and calling me a racist because...
Like I just did. Remember? Just because you didn't know the song, what did I do?
You said you don't know nothing about slavery.
Yeah.
It's just them using verbal antics in order to try to do that. But it's like, for example, if you paid for a service to be done, whether I may be, say you paid someone to come build your house and they don't show up to you, would you legally take them to court and either make them come and do their job, or B, would you get penalties for all the money you paid and get all the money back, and probably then some. Same idea.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't end there. Actually, they proceed to say, I know that there are search warrants out for us. This is what she says. I'm ready to be arrested, she said. It says, what do you do? Guys, my writing is so large here.
You said a search warrant?
Yeah.
A search warrant is, so you like, for example, if I'm going to come into your home or your car or something like that, it says I'm allowed to come in and look for whatever items are particularly outlined in that warrant. Right. So if I'm coming to look for a computer in your office, I'm allowed to come in and search and seize any computer. An arrest warrant would be what they would probably have, is where they can be arrested and then brought somewhere.
Right.
And now it's not a criminal offense. I think it's a statutory warrant or something like that. I forget, they call it something else, but
well, she says
it has to be executed by the state police, I believe.
Well, then she goes on with this, and I'm glad you said that, because she says, what do you do, and I have it smaller so I can actually read it better, to a slave if you don't do anything but arrest them when they flee? We fled Texas, and if they want to arrest me, go ahead. I'm all ready to be arrested. So it's kind of daring to be arrested.
Come back, get arrested, and sit inside there and do your job. Whatever gets the job done.
Right. So as far as we know, have you heard anything else?
I haven't seen anything new come across, but it's been a real busy week for me. I mean, just before I came on here, I was had a last second emergency at work I was called into, and that takes priority on everything. So
work responsibilities.
Oh yeah, got to pay the bills,
Yeah, at least you go to work.
Yep. Got to keep the wife happy,
Got to keep the wife happy.
Yep.
I wonder how.
Got to buy all that bling.
How many families are actually behind these Democrats who fled and said go right ahead?
I believe if the media keeps doing what they always do and just spins up a certain tale that makes it look horrible and everything else, and doesn't actually put the real details of why, how it's legal, the purpose behind it, and the simplicity of holding somebody to their oath, then I'm sure that people out there that don't do their research and don't have the ability to think beyond the simplicity of what the media tells them are probably going to have a little bit of be upset about it because they're not going to really look deep into it.
Right.
And you don't have to look that deep to realize they swore an oath and they're being called back to do their oath.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's just anybody who has an oath sworn to them should expect that person to complete that oath.
Right.
I mean, otherwise, all they're doing, anybody, whether it's Democrat or Republican, anything like that, doesn't matter. If you fail to stand up to your oath, then your character is shit.
So character.
It's all about character.
It's all about character.
So, I mean, if you're gonna lose, show up to lose, and you know, do it with your head held high, knowing that you did everything you could to try to win.
But walkouts are a form of protest, aren't they?
They can be considered a form of protest, but the difference between a walkout, like maybe walk out of a job, walk out of school, even school, I don't really agree with it. I think it's an absolute cowardice way to do it, even if that means that, you know, I would be in the losing side of things or whatever, or my side doesn't win. I think it's a cowardice way to do it. But in this case, the difference between like a walkout in school or walkout in business or walkout on something else, this is a sworn oath, and I take that very seriously.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I held my oath in the military. I showed up and did my duty.
Did you agree with everything?
Of course not. There were times I got orders I think were absolutely atrocious. There's times I think the military made some horrible choices. I completed my term of service all the way out, and in my contract, got my honorable discharge and everything else. And then I chose not to re-enlist for multiple reasons. One is because I didn't like the way the military was going and the choices they were making, but I was no longer held to that oath.
But the Democrats are fighting because there is a thought of voter suppression. And you've heard voter suppression ever since.
That's just words.
Even before the election of Biden.
It could be honestly, voter suppression could be argued the other way. If you make it too loose and too much of a where it's too easy to cheat or to change stuff, like this, they found all that stuff in Arizona. They found so many issues in Arizona. But they can't go back and change it because it's too late. It's already, they said they don't have the power to do it. The Senate didn't have the power to do it, to recall their electors. Otherwise, they would, because they found so much evidence of voter fraud in Arizona. So, but if you make it too loose, then it's voter suppression by obfuscation. Means that you're being suppressed, you just don't know about it. So, in this case, they're not voter suppressing. They're trying to make laws so that the voting is more fair, and that people that shouldn't be voting, or people that don't, for everybody.
For everybody.
When I say everybody, I mean anyone that is a legal U.S. citizen that has the right to vote. So, for example, if you're an undocumented worker, or in this case, an illegal alien, you do not have the right to vote. I don't care if you've been here for 20 years. I don't care if you've been in here for 40 years, or you've been here for 5 minutes. You don't have the right to vote. You want the right to vote? Go do the paperwork. Go do the work. Go through their citizenship. Get your citizenship. Become a legal citizen of the United States, and then you get the right to vote.
Yeah.
So that's out.
Great.
People say, oh well, people in poor areas, blacks, Hispanics, things like that. Oh, it's suppressing them to vote. Because A, that they have an ID. Well, that's required for anyone over the age of 18 is required to have legal ID
Absolutely.
on them if they travel outside their home.
Yeah.
And there's like, oh, well, if you had to go somewhere to vote, well, if little old ladies out in the suburbs can get out and come in and vote, I think someone can jump on a bus or bike or wherever else and go to a voting center to vote if they have to. If
there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, if it's a mail-in vote, and they require ID validation or signature verification things, that's not suppressing anybody. People can still, sign a signature and provide ID and stuff. So, I mean, I don't get where the voter suppression actually is. If it's a language barrier, they offer language options. Absolutely. So I don't see where their actual voter suppression is. They're just using words in order to argue the fact that they're putting laws in that they'll make it so easy to cheat. So
I understand. You said I don't get where the voter suppression is, and I have racked my brain trying to find out where it is. There's all sorts of theories as to what it is, whether a machine doesn't work, whether there's a whole bunch of ideas on how or why.
Well, we can speculate into the eternity on what may or may not happen.
True.
But history has shown us that doesn't really happen.
That's
Yeah,
true.
a machine may malfunction here and there and stuff, but there's backups. You go to another voting area or something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You.
There's actually I think one of the most secure things that we do in our country should be the voting.
Yeah.
And there should be more checks and balances on that than most other things, because that's us putting people to represent us into our government. So we need to know that the people what the people want is actually there.
Is the voting process still pure?
You know,
I mean,
I think for the most part, yes, but once it can be hardened. There's a process like in the IT world where it's called hardening a machine.
yes.
It's where you look at
It's
a
a guy
machine.
who knows about ITs.
Yeah,
Or
ITs.
ITs, computers.
IT, information
ITs,
technology.
you know,
I'm a cybersecurity analyst by work.
Yeah.
By trade.
Yeah.
So, computer hardening would be something like, or image hardening is a lot of different terms for it.
Right.
Would be taking your computer, and then usually there's some sort of standard that you can use to, like, it's locking it down, changing settings, turning things off, turning things on that might need to be, basically making all these changes so it's harder to have, like, I'm just going to use generic terms, have a hacker come in and break into your computer.
Yeah, please do.
So the very generic, it's basically, it's just making it harder.
But nothing's fail-safe, though.
Nothing's ever fail-safe. There's always the first thing you learn inside of cybersecurity, that if there's enough time, resources, and desire, everything's hackable.
Yeah, everything's hackable.
Yeah, everything's hackable. So there's not going to be a perfect solution, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't take attempts to make it more difficult to hack. For example, not plugging in voting machines to the internet. Never plug in a voting machine to the internet. And that was what they found all over the place, is that these Dominion machines are being plugged into the internet. Yeah, that's the same thing I had, that same face. It's what, and it's actually even talks about in their manual on how you can do that. But they're like, oh no, it was never plugged into the internet. But here's logs and everything else showing it was.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and we're going to go with Arizona because they recently released their stuff talking about deleted logs. They're talking about how there was 74,000, or there's more. It's like 74,500, something like that, ballots. In Arizona, in order to get a ballot in the mail, you have to request it. They can't just send it out there. You have to request to get the ballot.
Yes.
Yeah, there were 74,000 more mail-in ballots turned in than were requested. There were people that were added on to the voter registration after they already voted.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were some people removed a few months. There were logs that hadn't been deleted in many, many years, and suddenly, when there was a midst of audits trying to go on and all this controversy, suddenly they deleted logs after 5 years. This logs are missing. All the previous years are there, but that year's missing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are things that were found during the audits that show that there's indeed, voting issues. Irregularities.
Yeah.
And so the point is, and the thing is, I'm not saying that every single state has the same problems and everything else, but voting by mail is very, very risky. There needs to be a lot more checks into that. I need a lot more checks.
A lot more checks.
Yes. I think voting really does need to be in person. Make it ADA compliant and make a lot more places to do it.
I love the way you said that. Make it ADA.
Yeah, make it ADA compliant so that way no one with any disabilities has any issues.
Yeah.
Have people have multilingual stuff out there for people that are U.S. citizens, but may not know the language very well. And sorry, my wife just distracted me to the side.
Yeah, I thought she was giving a cue too.
Yeah. And then make sure that you have enough of them around the area that people can get to you. Mm-hmm. So.
Very good.
And I think it's good is to make sure also that you communicate. This is where they're going to be at. This is when we're going to be doing it, and you shut down the voting when it needs to be done. And I'd say just eliminate mail-in voting altogether, except for overseas votes.
Yes.
For the military, they're fighting for the right. They should have the right to vote.
Absolutely. And that was a little bit of a.
Here's the last thing, and I've heard this by many people. I believe even Lars said the same thing, that there should be no tallying the numbers turned in until they're all done at the exact same time. It shouldn't be. This state comes in, then this one comes in, and this one. Have everybody tally up the numbers. No numbers are released. No numbers released from media.
Yeah.
Nobody else. It's
Yeah.
completely top secret. And then at the same time, they have a window, like 1 hour window to turn everything in or whatever.
Well, isn't that what we do when we're in a board meeting and we vote? Or
well, we all vote at the same time. We all vote at the same time.
But I mean, usually you tally up all your votes and then come up with the final. You don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Here,
yeah,
you
exactly.
It together.
Even I think even local counties should have the exact same rules where it's turned in. Oh. I'm just gonna tell you the note that keeps getting snapped at me. Stop covering your face.
Me?
Yes.
Dang it! I just got one of their producers told me to stop covering my face, but this is my thinking face, guys. Go ahead, keep going.
I thought it was a constipated face.
Wow.
I wasn't gonna say it, but hey,
You know what?
I'm
drinking water. It goes right through me. Go ahead, right? Go for it. Go for it.
So
you were just saying about.
Yeah, but it's. Oh, what was I just saying? Oh yeah, so it's. They all should be turned in at the exact same time.
Yes.
And because that reduces the fact is that the potential and the concern even that someone goes, oh, well, we saw numbers over here, so we're going to punch a few more numbers up. That eliminates that altogether, whether it actually happened or not or whatever else.
Yeah.
Which I believe that may have happened. Plenty of times I saw enough stuff out there that made me question it.
Mm-hmm.
But that will just eliminate it. There won't be a question. If everybody's turning their stuff in at the same time, there's no numbers to come back later.
I think you're going to find a lot of people agree with you.
And yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you go to bed election night, and then you wake up in the morning. It looks like a certain way, and then you wake up in the morning and totally flipped. That's odd.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Don't have the election night numbers. Have it come in the next day if you have to. If you have to
wait
a day,
I think we can wait a day.
I'll wait a week if it has to make sure it's properly done. As long as they can release a provable, valid audit trail on every single vote done. They can show that everything was properly done. Then yeah, I'll wait a week. I'll wait a month if it takes that long to get the stuff together. I don't care. As long as they can prove that there was no fraud along the way, then I'll wait. Because I want to make sure that the elections are protected. Because I want to know that the people that I'm voting for and that everybody else wants in office is actually getting there.
Yeah, you are a big fan of making sure you hear the voice of the people.
Exactly.
So this really, I mean,
well,
as a councilman, you mentioned it before, but
as an elected official,
yeah,
that is what I was elected for, was to listen to as many people as I can
of the people.
And while I know you can't
don't skew the numbers.
You can't exactly. While you can't meet what everybody wants,
right?
It's impossible. You try to meet as many people as you can desire. So if the majority wants something, that's what you're meant to bring forward out. Even if that is technically against what I want personally, it's still, if that's what the majority wants, you find that common ground and you put it together.
Well, just to close out this segment, I want to tell you my dead uncle voted for you.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah, my dead uncle did. Came overnight.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how he did. He just woke up from the dead. Tales from the crypt.
Oh, okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Was it when I was running for the president?
No, you were running for. Joel for president. How many? Hey, you know what? Hey, real fast. We need you. Oh, he says no. So, by the way, we need you to actually interact with us. So, online, if you're watching, interact with us. Type. If I'm being a dork, if I have my hand in front of my face, say something. But at the same time, interact with us. We want to know your thoughts about this.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Is that okay? I did that. Yeah.
There you go. You can say it.
All right.
Preach it, brother.
Joel for president.
Joel for president. He goes, what do you got for us, Joel? Because I got another one for you.
We're getting comments from the peanut gallery over here.
Yeah, right. Because I got another one for you. Because I have somebody watching tonight. Hopefully,
I would never run for president. Not even in my wildest dreams.
Well, me either.
So
yeah, me either.
That takes somebody who wants some serious abuse.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, if you were to talk about popular subjects, I will wait for mine because you need a subject in here. Because I have another unpopular.
I've been pulling out subjects a little bit here and there. I mentioned about the change in Arizona.
Okay.
We could talk about what happened over in Michigan where the
tell everybody about that.
So and I only got a little bit chance to look into it, so I'm still digging into it deeper. But over in Michigan, the people were tired of the tyrannical actions of their governor, so they got together and they made a petition to request to remove the ability for emergency powers from the governor. And so they made this petition that was far beyond the minimal that they need. They turned it in. It was all validated, and so the Senate voted to remove the emergency powers option or law. I think it's law from the from the governor, basically remove her emergency powers. And then it got moved to Michigan's House, and they voted it down. Majority voted both times.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And so now her emergency powers have been removed, and things are rolled back to normal. So yes, that is the power of the people right there. They said, "Hey, we are tired of this bullshit."
But isn't it the same governor that had her life threatened, though?
I don't know, and honestly,
you remember the story last year.
I think there was somebody who had their life threatened, and
it was the Michigan governor.
It was it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, guys.
It probably was. I mean, I'm sure that's what it was.
Yeah.
So, but nonetheless, the people spoke. They removed their powers and they moved forward. That's the proper way to do it. Right. Use the law to do it. Don't threaten the governor's life and things like that.
Yes.
Be legal about what you do. That is the proper way to do it.
Do it legal.
Now, I question what happened with the with our stuff, and so there was a recall for Governor Kate Brown. And there was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands more signed. Like we had way more, like 30 or 40% more than the minimum we needed. And at the very last minute, she changed the laws using COVID as a cover as what it would take in order to have that the observation, people to view the counts and things.
Yes.
And so while
not the checkers, but the
people that are validating signatures and stuff, they were suddenly no longer allowed to view the same way and stuff. So, and out of nowhere, after all of those signatures and everything else, they said they missed by less than 1%. Shocking, huh?
Shocking.
So that's what I'm talking about, election integrity, because the recalls are just need to be just as much integritable as an election does. There needs to be proper stuff. And I think, honestly, anything like that needs to be heavily inspected and needs to be reviewed. And honestly, I think when laws like that are changed and abused by the governors in any of the states, whether it's Republican or whether it's Democrat, doesn't matter, that those governors should be held criminally liable for doing that, because at that point they stole it from the people.
An abuse of power.
It's an abuse of power, and they stole the right of the people at that point. And so now, granted, did everything? Do I know things went a certain way? No, I can't say I know for a fact that was what happened. But the circumstances show something that's very suspicious. Prove me wrong the other way.
True. Yeah. Yeah. Did you know? Not necessarily the subject, but did you know that there's about 17 states now who are on board for defunding the police?
Yeah, that's because
including ours.
So when they started making changes to would be steps towards defunding the police in Portland, they cut the gun violence team. They did some stupid stuff that made the riot team all quit at one time. They've cut the police force almost in half because nobody wants to work in Portland.
Yeah.
And they pulled a bunch of funding. The crime rate in Portland has skyrocketed. Yeah. I think last time I checked it was like 1,700%.
Yeah.
I think it was last time I checked. I'd have to pull the current numbers and see, but it was insane. And they went like 900% in like 30 days. And it's been continuing to rise because there's not enough police officers. And the county isn't going to supplement bad choices in the city of Portland.
Yeah,
I mean, no counties are going to step in to do that. And it's Portland is a great example of what defunding the police will do. You will have riots. People will kill and steal. You will lose business. So Portland has literally gone to the dumps. It has become one of the primaries to move into. Now there's actually losing more people in Portland than they're gaining.
Yeah, Joel, defunding and this whole police issue is very dear to my heart because over the last year I've gotten to know some police officers. There's another side.
Were you in the back or the front of the car?
So, is that a racial joke?
No, just knowing you.
I did some ride-alongs, but I can't say. No. That was really bad. So, no.
You never clarified. Were you doing ride-alongs or were you doing ride-alongs?
I was doing ride-alongs, but it's really close to my heart, okay? So, really close to my heart because I got to see the other side to this. And From Fox News, actually, there's, and I'm going to read again. You know, guys, get ready, hold your hat. But it says, some are calling defunding the police. Fox News says this as the first step towards entirely dismantling whole police departments. About 16, again, I just said that, states, including ours, is looking at defunding and reallocating funds. I still don't know what reallocating funds means, but I have a pretty good look at possibly what that would mean. Some say defunding the police means that reallocating funds or redirecting funds away from the police department to other government agencies funded by the local municipality. Simply put, defunding the police means budget cuts, fewer resources, and less ability to provide meaningful training and opportunities due to lack of accessible funds. And I know some police officers who, and I won't say where they're from because that's not what I do here, but I know some police officers who have dealt with the same vehicle for years, and I wouldn't use that car in anything, let alone a car chase. Not that they do that anymore because it's dangerous, but still, it's still they're using cars that are outdated. The equipment that they're using is just not safe for them to use, let alone to use on anyone else. So I know people, I know cops that are working overtime because of these issues. So now you're dealing with sleepy cops dealing with the ills of society. It's just getting worse.
And it's more than just being sleepy. It's when your brain can get tired just from having to constantly be on alert that much too.
Absolutely.
And so you start getting, that's where mistakes are coming in, because when you're defunding the police, it means that there's more work too as well. So
yeah.
So I want to ask you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to flip the subject on you real quick.
Okay.
What do you think about the Fauci thing?
Dr. Fauci?
That they're sending,
I saw that.
They're sending a criminal complaint about him too.
Yes.
Because he lied under oath.
Uh-huh. And
it's funny how many people swore up and down by his data there.
Uh-huh.
Now he's suddenly the I don't know what's going on, and it was the best thing for the people,
But what was it exactly? I saw some clips of Fauci.
It was some statements, and I don't know the deepest piece of it as far as what he had said, and I could have to look up the exact statement, but
yeah.
The gist of it comes down to statements where he makes things like, masks don't work, and then masks do work, and then it was for political basis, and then he lied about something along those lines. So, but the point I'm bringing up there is that when you hear this thing, I'm with the government, I'm here to help. It's the scariest word you could ever hear. It's people swore up and down by his stuff, and instead of doing their own fact checks where there's
right.
Like I said, don't listen to the guy. The guy's a quack. Do your own research.
Mm-hmm.
The CDC doesn't really know what's going on right now because they are led by somebody who's politically motivated instead of doing the actual science.
Yeah.
I mean, they had reports. I read something earlier today that there was reports about how it's actually harmful for kids to be wearing masks all day long, especially in school, because it increases their carbon monoxide.
Isn't California starting to ask, is it as low as 3-year-olds? Am I right or am I off on that?
2-year-olds.
2-year-olds? No.
That's the last thing I saw was 2-year-olds.
You really? Because I heard 3-year-olds.
Two on up is what last
what?
I heard. Now, if it's California only, I don't know, but I know that they're talking about masks from two up to adult. So
for the Delta variant.
For
this new
for anything to do with
strand
COVID.
or anything to do with COVID.
Yeah. So and I remember seeing that was what was in the article I was reading was about 2. So now, granted, I haven't actually gone and read that on the CDC website. So that was just a statement in an article. So I'm gonna use that and put that little caveat on there that I haven't read it on the CDC website yet.
Okay.
But yeah, and that I believe that
I'm gonna try to not say too much because I don't want it to get Facebook.
But I believe that the California is actually being more strict.
Yeah. Indoors and out, isn't it now?
More strict than what the CDC guidelines are.
So. Really? How could you? Really? They know something that CDC doesn't?
Apparently. I don't know.
Huh.
I don't know. It's like I said. I think they need to do the same thing in California that they just did in Michigan. I think a lot of anyone that's trying to go down that same road again needs to start making some removing some emergency power options.
Since you want to go there and get me off my soapbox on the policing thing, I was going to say, aren't they asking now those who've had the Johnson, not the Johnson & Johnson, the Moderna and the Pfizer, aren't they asking possibly for a booster shot for the Delta?
Pfizer's supposed to have the booster shot, I believe. No, I'm sorry, I lied. Johnson & Johnson.
Johnson
Johnson. Yeah, you have to have a booster for Johnson & Johnson.
I guess one shot you're done, but yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
One shot you're done, you need a booster for it. So.
Well, it's they. I don't know. The other ones have been talking about a booster or not. They need it or whatever, for like you would for the flu variant, but I said flu variant for like the flu virus.
I got where you're coming from. You got it.
I just want to clarify myself there. But they talk about for the flu virus and to get your annual shots and stuff on there. But honestly, it's I don't know. I mean,
I'll just tell everybody right now. I got mine. I got my
They're
Pfizer.
saying you can still catch it, and actually,
that's the thing. Go ahead.
Here's the thing that gets me is people who are been taking the vaccine, they're the only ones really catching the Delta variant. Now, that's not true 100% the case.
The ones who have taken the vaccine?
Yeah, they're catching it more than people who haven't. That's the last I heard.
Okay. So. Well, I'm going to be very careful here. I got the Moderna. I got the Moderna because of the job that I do. Mm-hmm. And I got it because I wanted to, for my own personal reasons. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to protect the people I see. But when it comes to taking a booster, I'm a little bit more shy. I'm like, I already put something in there that I'm not quite sure about, but I did for the greater good. But I'm not sure if I don't know. It's to each his own. But I when you start saying, well, you're going to catch it anyway, that's not what I heard before. So when it starts changing like that, it makes you a little bit suspect.
Yeah.
What do I know?
Exactly.
CDC knows, or California knows.
We can come right back around to that. We're going to take a quick break.
Yeah.
So mainly because the fan is blowing his hair up my nose and it's driving me nuts.
That's great. Okay.
This beard's attacking me.
Bring us out.
Yes. So guys, I appreciate. We'll be right back in a few minutes. We have a couple sponsors. We'd love for you to take a minute to watch their commercials here, and we got a quick Backwoods minute for you. And then we'll be right back here in a few minutes, and we'll continue the conversation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it. Share it everywhere, guys. Thanks.
Are you going to share your squirt with me?
Okay, if you want some. See you in a couple minutes, guys.
Hey guys, welcome back. We're having some robust dialogue with hearty stuff.
Wow, that was as correct.
You know what? I guess you have to visit our website so you can correct what I just said, but we're having some really good dialogue here. Man, we talk about voter suppression, we talk about all kinds of stuff.
We've talked everything from about what's going on down in Arizona. We've talked a little bit about what was happening up in Michigan. We've talked about all sorts of different things. Defunding the police and the effects that that's had. We talked a little bit about.
I wasn't quite done with that yet, but you know what? I'm going to save it for. Well, I was going to save it for a different segment because I was going to get on a soapbox about this. This is the next step. I am going to say it. I'm just going to say it. This is the next step to anarchy.
It is.
It is. It's the next step to anarchy, and call it an agenda or not. It is the next step. It's just like saying, hey, we don't need leaders anymore. We don't need leadership anymore. But who do we call? I mean, just
Ghostbusters. I thought that was obvious.
No, I mean, Ghostbuster, yeah. But it's so ingrained in our fabric to say, I'm going to call the police if we have a problem. Who are you going to say we're going to call? Can I just tell you something, though, before we go there?
Yeah.
That was a rhetorical question. But what the media will not tell you is I know possibly someone who, somewhere in this state, they work with mental health as a part of the policing that they do. And I think it's pretty awesome that there is maybe something out there that's already done to serve the mental health community. Since, I mean, a lot of calls that are come in as police officers tend to be 90% or maybe even less than 90% mental health calls. But I'm sure to tell you, as a mental health professional myself, if someone's in crisis, I'm going to want a cop to come with me. Because most likely, if they're brandishing a weapon, what am I going to do? Let's sit down and have a conversation? Probably not. If I'm going to a domestic call and there's already a heightened emotion, unless I'm like Dr. Phil, well, maybe Dr. Phil can do it. But if I have to be the most amazing Jedi Knight to be able to bring and de-escalate that situation, and maybe it would be nice to have someone who is a law enforcement.
I think what we're going to do is we're going to start finding a shortage in healthcare workers. One, because either they're going to end up start getting killed, or B, they're just going to not be in the field anymore. That's what's going to happen. You're basically asking an unarmed person to go to a very serious situation without any backup.
Well, I mean, we're taught de-escalation, Joel. We do.
Well, so is law enforcement.
But you witnessed this yourself, though. You witnessed a couple of weeks ago, I had someone at my door who stuck their foot in my door. And I can negotiate all I want, but if I wasn't able to de-escalate the situation until I said I was going to call the police.
Yeah.
So me as a mental health provider wasn't able to de-escalate that situation, but a police officer would have.
The funny thing is, I actually, and no joke, heard people arguing to defund the police, but said, "Well, we can always just give the the mental health stuff to things to protect themselves."
Yeah, just like they're arming teachers.
Well, I'm thinking like, oh, so you can give them like a taser or something like this, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, great, but
did you bring a taser on the program?
I actually my taser.
Brought a taser. You want to tase me? Because we did that before.
I'm sure that would get some ratings.
Okay, but no, finish your thought.
But but there to have a taser and stuff and things like that. I mean, what's the difference between a law enforcement officer who's been heavily trained and experienced and everything else to have the taser? So.
Right. I'd rather focus on the person and not have to do that.
Exactly.
I didn't go to school to get my master's in psychology, counseling, mental health to learn how to use a taser. As a matter of fact, I think that us counselors have a different construct. I consider a police officer a warrior type. I consider myself a counselor. I'm more of the let's go ahead and talk about your feelings. But talking about your feelings in a crisis situation might not de-escalate it as quick. Now, do I believe that there should be better training, more training? Yes. But it takes more money to have more training.
Exactly. You don't cut the money it takes to get the training. You just put stipulations on it and say, hey, this money needs to be earmarked for training.
Yes.
Check.
But there also no, you're right. But there also needs to be supports for police officers because I looked at the pros and I looked at the cons of being a police officer. And there's 5 pros and there's 5 cons. And I can read this because I can read even though I can't see too well, guys. But here we go. It says here's a con. I'm going to read the pros first. The pros to being a police officer, and they said, we are active. We practice what we do. We're active. We're fit. I know cops who run all the time and keep themselves physically, mentally, everything fit.
I know a few officers that I wouldn't put in the fit category, but go ahead. They're in shape, but round is a shape.
What's that? No. What's that cop show that came on a long time ago? I'm gonna date myself. It's Officer Mahoney was a part of it. Do you remember?
It's Reno 911. No?
Police Academy.
Police
Academy.
Yeah.
I remember Police Academy.
Oh, yes, you're right.
Best show ever.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. But there were some round police officers there. But no, you got to watch Police Academy. And then they're competitive. There's competition. You know, and in that competitiveness, it's not who can be top dog, but there is some competition involved in being a cop. And then the blue bond. This Blue Lives thing has been blown way out of proportion. This flag represents a bond of brothers, just like a band of brothers in the army. Mm-hmm. It's a bond of brothers in the police force.
Oh yeah.
And I'm all about that. A lot of police officers will talk to other police officers, not necessarily to civilians, because they have a shared experience, a shared story.
People don't understand that. They think like, thin blue line, they're going to get their backs and they got some sort of mob mentality going on. You don't realize that when you're in a situation, and law enforcement in many cases, especially places like Portland, is going to be like in a war zone sometimes, people have it out for you. You could be shot at at any time. Yeah. You could be going hand to hand with somebody. You could be doing a lot of different things. And there's every different parts of that police job is that
if you can't trust the one you're with.
What I'm saying is they depend on the other law enforcement officers that they work with on a normal basis, and they have to be able to trust them. Yeah. And that creates a bond. Just like when you're in war in Afghanistan and you're on patrol and stuff, you got to trust that man to your right and to your left, and the guys watching your six is actually going to be there to do their job, so you can focus on doing your job.
Don't they become family? I mean, are the brothers you were with and sisters? I mean, brothers.
Yeah, they were so close. We used to have a guy who used to hit on my wife all the time.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah, it was great.
That's pretty close. That's a bond, guys. That's a bond. But they do form a bond, and you better have one because you got to trust the guy you're with.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Or gal.
Exactly.
Yeah. Community pride. That goes along. You better be proud of what you do. You better have pride in what you do. I don't want to meet a burnt-out police officer who doesn't have pride in what he does. Well, I would want to meet a burnt-out police officer because I would be the one that would love to talk with them and just restore. But in job satisfaction, believe it or not, a lot of cops still believe that there's job satisfaction in what they do. I don't know if they attribute that to the community presence or them backing them. I don't know, but they love what they do. And we have to believe that cops do love what they do.
I believe that law enforcement really has to attract two kind of personalities. One has to be an alpha personality. You got to have that.
Alpha. Yeah.
You got to be able to take charge in a situation.
Absolutely.
And the second part is it attracts those who have heart of service. Mm-hmm. Now you're going to get the ones in there that they're in there for the wrong reasons, which is not service and those type of things. But the problem is with it, they won't last. They're not going to last a long time because they're going to burn out. They're going to want to think that they're going to run around gun-toting and everything else you can see inside the movies. They don't realize that most law enforcement, it's not that. You're out there car accidents. You're helping to get people that are mentally handicapped and need help, that have mental issues. Yeah. You're out there solving a domestic issue. You're out there helping that child that's in a bad situation. Yeah. You happen to enforce laws and take people to prison. And there's many times when there's so many things. It's not what everybody thinks it is. There's so much of it as a service to the community.
You just totally went into the cons of being a police officer. One of them out of 5 is most police officers are cynical, or some police officers become cynical. Mm-hmm. I guess so. When you see the ills of society, and that's what you have imprinted into your mind, you would become cynical.
If you gave a piece of yourself every single day to the people in the community around you, and all you got was shit back. You got slapped in the face. Yeah. Theoretically.
You become a little desensitized.
Yeah, it kind of sucks. I mean, I see there's times when my wife, she services the community through like going out and let me rephrase that. That sounded really bad. She goes out and she works hard to provide a service to the community in a way of like, bringing
Only
meal
to you it sounded
trains.
bad. It actually sounded really good. She
meal-
does provide a service.
Yes,
Of community.
she
Helps.
does like meal trains, and
Yeah.
she goes out and she'll help people get rides and solve problems for people, and all these different things that she does every day to help the people in the community and help support that.
Yeah.
But yet there still is going to be people out there that they either work to counter her because they think they know something about a group that she's part of, or there's jealousy, or there's just I don't get people who just make bad choices. And so when you hear that enough, sometimes she has her down days where she's just like, man, what is going on?
Yeah.
What's the point of serving the community when there's so much, when there's really not,
When there's more,
it seems like there's a lot of it, I should say.
yeah, seemingly more negative than positive.
Yeah, it seems like more negative and positive. And then there's days like where she just gets flooded with appreciation, or she sees the fruits of that labor coming out, and then she gets it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, actually, I want you to draw more back from this too. So, draw more stories into this. But many, and this is of us. I quote: "Many of us try to combat the daily toll of social decay with humor." Many try to, and I would, as a counselor, call that a coping skill.
Say it again.
Many try to deal with the ills of society, and the way they process the ills of society might be with humor. So it's the brain's way of trying to mend itself from the trauma that they see. People react to trauma in different ways. I'm sure you know that.
Yeah.
And our brains tend to want to cope with something that had been seen or heard or smelled, or this from being deployed. So they use humor. It might seem cold, but it's not. It's a coping mechanism.
Well, exactly. There's been plenty of times that, that's my defense mechanism. You call it coping, I call it a defense mechanism.
Too.
When I'm in a situation that I'm just uncomfortable with, I don't know how to respond to, or I don't have the emotional capacity to deal with, I'll make a joke. I'll crack a joke or something like
As
that.
his best friend, he really does.
And it basically, I feel like it gives a temporary buffer there for me in order to try to process and reduce that, what I feel is a heavy load suddenly coming on there. So.
That's interesting, because I know you so well now that when you do crack a joke, it's like he doesn't know what to say or what to do. I'm like, oh yeah. Okay.
Sometimes I just crack a joke to crack a joke.
Yeah, well. For a cop, the rose-colored glasses are always off.
I think that's true.
Yeah. Define the rose-colored glasses.
World's great and wonderful, and there's no problems in the world, and wonderful. I think it puts like when I came back from Afghanistan, and I'm even now I'm a lot of the same way. I'm always on alert.
Yeah.
Because I think once you see the dangers in the world, and you've been exposed to understand that, and your exposure makes you aware, and then being aware makes you always on edge. And so law enforcement, my exposure to that world was more in Afghanistan and the issues on the outside, so you can see the difference between the two. And I do understand that it comes into the U.S. sometimes, whereas a law enforcement officer, their exposure to that is right in their own backyard.
Yes.
And so how much more, if you know the dangers that lurk around the corners even, how much more are you going to be on alert at all times?
Alert at all times. You're never off the job, it seems like. You're always on
law enforcement is never off the job.
No.
They swear an oath, and now granted, I keep putting them all in the same category. There's always outliers.
There's always outliers.
And
so let's keep that in mind. Yeah. When I'm coming from this, I'm coming from, I was raised with these this imprint that we respect authority. This is where I'm coming from. So when I'm talking, I know there's outliers. I know that, but I'm coming from, I've always had ingrained in me to respect those in authority. And so this is where this is coming from. So Pandora's box is closed.
Pandora's
what do you
box
think I mean by that? Opening up Pandora's box would be
basically, you know, like it's opening a can of worms, all that type of thing. So.
Yes. There's a lid on it. And it often shows in PTSD things that never get talked about. Love the hat. And the last but not least, the trio: impatience, intolerance, and paranoia. So one of the hard things for maybe a cop is maybe they become impatient or they become intolerant or there's some paranoia because of what they have to, I love that hat, deal with. So those are some things that cops deal with because they're people. And we need to remember that. Cops are people too.
They're are.
Not robots.
Exactly. And they're trained and everything else, but they're just as susceptible to faults as they are to good days and everything else as much. And that, well, if you, let's just say you're trained at your job and everything else, do you make perfect decisions 100% of the time, or do you occasionally fumble something?
I know as a counselor I have bad days.
Now imagine if you on your account day as a counselor you have a bad day, and you fumble something, and then instantly you're publicly criticized and slandered, and potentially you could go to jail for it.
Yeah. Like you said, we keep in mind that, I mean, you know, if there's really a marked problem where a cop needs to maybe retire his badge, then we trust that happens. But in my experience, the ones that I've experienced in my own world are pretty self-aware of themselves. They're self-aware. So it's good. Yeah. So I just want to draw a little bit of attention to it and say maybe, you know, again, reallocation of funds, or I'm for not defunding. I'm for extra funds to provide extra services.
Mm-hmm. Oh, exactly.
We don't take away something that's...
Well, yeah, exactly. How do you expect to improve something by reducing the resources?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I don't know.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think we can keep beating that dead horse, but in the end, it's I mean, I think most people agree.
If you beat a dead horse, I will call the police on you.
Yeah, you probably should.
So, all right.
If you're in Portland, they may not show up right away.
Probably good for him.
But I love horses, and I would never beat a dead horse.
He would never beat a dead horse.
You know, I was talking about show up and do your job.
Yeah.
Well, the Republicans were threatening to boycott the January 6th panel because Pelosi rejected two of their choices. Now, what Pelosi did January 6th, it's a panel to investigate the January 6th.
Okay.
So, and they're supposed to have five, basically from the minority, the Republicans. 5 Republicans are supposed to be on there. Well, Pelosi didn't like 2 of them. She said, "No, I'm not going to let those 2. I'll take those 3, but you can't have those 2." And what's unprecedented? You take them and you let them do their thing, whatever. But she didn't want them there because they've openly said, we're going to dig down and we're going to find we're going to ask the hard questions and we want to know what actually happened. We're going to dig until we find the answers. And that's what caused her to push them on. Now she won't say that openly, but it's been hinted at that part. Now the Republicans are threatening to boycott. Basically, they're not even going to go to the panel. I mean, we're just not going to show up to it.
Are we going to do another not show up though?
And that's the thing I don't agree with. Yes, it sucks. She's not agreeing to let those 2 on there. Call her out, make it public, and you know, if you have to put 2 new people in there, whatever else it is, hold her accountable. But the way to fix that is to get her out of that position. Mm-hmm. Get her out of the position. I mean, get the people in there that will vote her out. She'll be gone. Have the people vote, do not reelect her, whatever it is. But that's the way to fix it. It sucks now to go over this stuff. And you know what? There's been times where things have been decided in the city that I brought them back up because I wanted a chance to talk about them, because I thought I could bring a different light onto it, or I think the people wanted to bring a different light onto it because they've been talking about it.
Right.
So in this case here, sure, there might be a January 6th panel to investigate it and everything else. And if it's a sham investigation, just like half the stuff that the Democrats do out there, when it comes back around and we have the majority in the House, we investigate it again, dig up more information, or whatever it takes.
Joe, didn't one...
But show up and do the damn job.
Show up and do the damn job. But, Joel, didn't one already get charged? Insurrection.
There's
there
been
was
some
one
people
this
charged.
week?
You're talking about the, it was a...
he has like 18 months or something?
You talking about one of the anarchists?
Yeah.
That
he was in the chamber.
I saw something about
yes.
Portland about that. No, one of the anarchists in Portland got a charge of the crime for
in
rioting.
Portland?
Yeah,
no. This was the insurrection in January.
There must have been a different one than I haven't seen.
Yeah.
Yet.
No. Oh, yeah. I don't know a lot about the story, but you want to check it out.
Yeah. So I think they're going to dig deeper into like why law enforcement wasn't where they should have been, and etc. And those other questions have been coming up, which I have a feeling they're going to skirt around some of that because there's some suspicions of other stuff that doesn't really add up. But
yeah,
I'm not going to get into potential what could be a conspiracy theory. I don't have enough information to speak on it today.
Well, one person we don't ever have to worry about, well, at least for 2.5 years, is Michael Avenatti.
Oh, yeah?
Do you not know who Michael Avenatti is?
Heard the name. But
Stormy Daniels' lawyer.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, he was actually on The View, and The View called him the Holy Spirit. And I'm a spiritual guy, and I have never thought that he looked like the Holy Spirit. He looked like Q Ball, because he had no hair. But no offense to people who had no hair.
Oh, wow.
But
wow.
But no, he was actually sentenced to prison for, I think it was 2.5 years or something, because he was extorting money from Nike. Yeah, this was the guy that was supposed to take down Trump in the Stormy Daniels case, and come to find out,
he looks like he'd fit well in with the mob.
Actually, do you have the picture?
I do have a picture.
He looks like he has a constant crying face.
Well, it looks
he has
like
a crying face.
He reminds me of a mob boss, like a mid-level mob boss that is just.
He could take horrible. You out if he wasn't in jail.
Do you a favor? You do me a favor.
Yes.
One day
he does look like that. Yes, but no. So so he will be serving some time. Probably should vet your lawyers when you use them.
Well,
at least know they can win a case or something.
Most lawyers out there are broken from the ground up. I mean,
did you just say most lawyers?
Most lawyers.
No, most lawyers. Wait a minute.
Think about it. Anybody who says, I want to go into a place and spend 8 years learning how to read law is already messed up in the head. They already need to see a shrink as it is. And then on top of that, to stay in long
you just
enough.
Called us shrinks. That's awesome.
Shrinks, yes. Head shrink.
Yeah, so he should 8 years?
8 years to become a lawyer.
And you're not even a doctor. That's usually a doctor's.
Yeah, and so you become a lawyer. And I'm sure there's different levels of it, so I don't know all the ins and outs of it. But
yeah.
To want to actually read law. Now, I went to school for criminal justice, and so I learned a little bit about it.
Is there anything you haven't done?
There's been a lot of things I haven't done.
Yeah,
so.
we'll
there's a lot of things
have a show about the things Joel hasn't done.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I probably shouldn't do. I will say most people don't know. I actually used to work over here at the lumber mill even.
The lumber mill that's not there anymore?
Yeah, the one that's there. I used to work in there when it was still here.
Okay.
Well, I would stack the boards, and I would stamp the lumber, and I'd do the recuts. And
why don't you talk about the time you went on Apollo 13 to the moon? Okay, why don't you just do that?
I was only 5.
You're only 5. I mean, but actually, you're a genius 5. So
I actually don't know if that's even the right year.
I don't even know what year it was.
You weren't born yet.
You weren't born yet.
See?
So yes. So no, tell us about this. Criminal justice.
Criminal justice. So I got a chance to read and learn a little bit about law and kind of how it works and everything. And there's no way in Hades I would spend 8 years of my life, my sane life, to learn about how to read more of that crap.
Oh gosh. Did you?
I call it crap.
Why did you go to criminal justice?
I wanted to eventually learn to be a law enforcement officer and eventually become a detective or something like that. That was the purpose behind it. But
you're working in cybersecurity, so you're bound to have a security
it's a weird branch off there, but it just didn't work out, and life took me to other ways, and then I got into IT and learned how to do, went to school for cybersecurity, and that's a very, very, very stemmed up portion of my life.
Right.
I've had a very interesting life.
Well, going back really fast, you said 8 years. Did you find out that Michael Avenatti did that?
What, went to school?
Yeah, for 8 years.
Well, that's a usual lawyer term. Let me just look up time to become a lawyer. We have internet, guys. It's amazing.
Yeah, he has internet. I have.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was wrong. 7 years.
7 years. Well, okay, you're a year off, but 7. Good lord.
And I'm sure. Well, 7.
Usually, you should, after 7 years,
I would
win a
say.
case.
I think there's probably 7 years in school and then an internship or something.
You think? You should win a case after 7 years. At least try not to go to jail.
That's just how long it takes to become a lawyer. And then there's time after that. And you know, they actually call it practicing law, practicing medicine, because you're always learning new stuff, and you never actually a fully.
Well, I see, and I get that fully. I'm practicing medicine, and it's definitely a practice, and it constantly changes.
I'm practicing husband.
I'm practicing husband. I'm failing at that one.
Yeah, so far
Sorry,
I'm
honey.
failing grades.
I didn't mean to. But no, so now you know about Michael Avenatti, and now you can do more research on him when he,
Sounds like a bad cologne.
Avenatti?
Michael Avenatti.
He might need a job after he gets out, so maybe he can sell his name.
There you go.
There was one more, and I talked to you about it, but the building collapse in Florida.
Yeah.
You had a lot of good theories about that.
Yeah, and I haven't seen anything new, but I haven't really been looking. So I think it's going to be a while before we see some real reports come out of there.
There's a bunch of simulations on YouTube on how that building actually collapsed.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it's actually kind of like best guess. I mean, until they actually get to the bottom and they fully dig everything out. And I think they're still finding people and stuff.
They're still after? This is 3 weeks later.
Yeah, and I think there's still some people missing. I think they're still finding, because there's a lot.
It's a recovery now. It's
well,
not.
Yeah. They're not finding people alive.
No.
They weren't finding people alive in the beginning. They're finding recovery.
Yeah.
So it's a building collapse.
Well, you brought up some theories about the cracks.
They were finding
some negligence.
They were finding bodies from when they did like the World Trade Center for like months and months. I think even 6 months later they found some when they were still trying to clean it up and dig around through that rubble and everything else.
I believe that.
Yeah, I mean, it's thousands of people died. Now, place hundreds of people died. So yeah, it's not surprising that they're still doing it. And they're trying to be careful because they want to be respectful of who they find. It's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, recovery efforts, but it's still on the news. It shows up periodically, but I'm hoping they find the answers that they need. I mean, it's very rare for buildings to just collapse.
I would hope that would be a rare thing.
Well, that's what.
Otherwise,
the news
I might be
says.
sleeping in a big tent.
Well, you don't have to worry. You have a house. If they collapse, you can probably lift up part of it. Like
I need like the Hulk or something. That's some heavy stuff up there.
The way they're building houses
My
nowadays.
wife
Do I have to
probably
get
could.
into this?
What?
The way they're building houses these days.
Oh.
I mean, my house. Hello.
Yeah,
you step in the bathroom, a bathtub, it cracks. So I mean, you don't have anything to worry about. You don't have anything to worry about.
They don't build it like they used to. I'll say that.
No, but that's a whole nother show.
Yeah, that's a whole nother show.
Architect. Maybe that's what you did back in a past life too.
Oh, I was not an architect.
You weren't an architect. You weren't.
No, not
You
at all.
sure?
Positive.
The funny part is I brought up your past life.
I did had to draw like housing plans and stuff in school. I mean, no, that wasn't like high school. It was like, here's how to use CAD and here's how you draw the blueprints and stuff. It was like a 1 or 2 semesters of drafting or something. I think is what they called it.
So now you know why we want to do a show, because there's a wealth of information in this person.
I don't even remember. I forgot more about that than I'd ever learned. I think.
You Webster? Are you Webster?
No.
You're not a dictionary.
No.
Ah.
I'm just a dick. Just kidding.
That's only the tip of the iceberg.
Dedicated infantry.
Only the tip of the iceberg.
Hey, do you know what a dick means? Dedicated infantry combat killer. It's what they call all infantry soldiers.
I would have to be the Band of Brothers to know that. I just knew a dick to be what?
Anybody who knows was in the military, that was in the military, and would probably know that.
So
I said that.
All you guys who fought for our country, you can go. Is it? No, it's not. It's oorah.
Sure.
Did I get it right?
Sure.
Did I get it right?
It sounds amazing.
It's
Come on.
different for different branches.
It's different from different branches. Why don't you show us the proper one, genius?
It's hooah for the military. It's
Ooh-ah.
oorah as the Marines.
Oh, well, see, I was a Marine.
And the Navy is
No,
yay.
What is it?
The Navy is Yay!
No offense to you, Navy guys and gals.
I'm just kidding.
That's
For
bad.
our Army, I got to give the Navy a hard
What
time.
about the Air Force?
What about the Air Force, he says?
Hey, birdie, birdie, birdie.
Hey, Bernie. So,
No, that's what happens when the Marine is trying to wait for the helicopter to land. Here, birdie, birdie, birdie.
okay, you have a really supportive wife because she knows all of the sayings. Like, we have to talk about military wives because they probably talked a lot about you guys while you were overseas.
Yeah, they talked a little bit. So
Yeah. Did they watch the news, though?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if she watched the news, and
Yeah.
that could be a question to ask her when she's on the next live show.
Backwoods wives.
Backwoods Wives. We keep talking about this Backwoods Wives thing, and
Yeah.
and we've had some things going, really building it up. So I really hope when it comes out, it's as big as we made it. But we filmed it. We actually put it together, and we decided we wanted to go back in to redo it and make a few changes to it. So it will be coming out, but it's just we're gonna make some changes and refilm it a little bit there.
So when it comes out, look out. It's going to be really, really good. Really.
Definitely.
Oh, don't forget our minutes.
Backwoods Minutes, yes. They
Off
come
the
out. The
chain.
next one, I think, is on the 23rd, I believe.
But can I say something?
Yeah.
Your wife drew all the popularity points up like 1,000%. 1,007.7
1.7?
1.7 million views. Just
No,
1,000
yeah.
views. I'm just joking. Way to inflate
It's
numbers.
because she's hot.
You can say that. She's my
okay.
sister. Ill. Okay.
Well, no, she's sitting out here and she has no air conditioning. She's kind of hot.
He's just trying to make points, guys.
Okay, guys. Well, hey, we really appreciate everybody joining today. We really hope that people will take a minute to like, subscribe, share it. Check out our YouTube channel too. I mean, it's the same things on a lot of it, but sometimes we throw a few different tweaks into each one. So be great to if they subscribe to that too, because we could really use the support. And don't forget to, if you stop by our sponsors, which is like the Hitchin Post, Whitney Signs. We have a few others that we're talking to you right now that'll be popping up soon. That if you happen to stop in some of those places, please mention that you saw us, and that you saw the show and the commercials, and we'd love to, let them know that their investment's going in the right place. So, we'll see you guys next week.
Until then,
Start a conversation. Thanks, guys. Here it is. Conversation is food for the soul.
As well as a cup.
So, yes, merchandise.
Merch.
Website.
Merch.
Yes.
Boom.
Buy a cup.
I like the
buy a hat.
Buy a hat.
Yeah.
Hat.
So.